And now let's move on. Hello everybody, welcome back to another brand new episode of Business Blaze. This episode of Business Blaze is brought to you by the good people at Squarespace. What is Squarespace? You've been watching this channel for a while now. You probably watch some of my other channels as well. You are very familiar with Squarespace. It's an incredible way to build a website. Is there anything I actually need to say? Oh yeah, you can check it out through the link in the description below. I believe we have a free trial. Yeah, there's a free trial. And then when you want to launch, you get 10% off. There is a link below. More on them in a bit, of course, as always. This is another follow-up video, insanely overpriced products. Speaking of insanely overpriced products, if you go to purchthemerch.co, which is my merch store, you'll be able to pick up stickers, which retail for about €7. And you might think for that price, or $7 or whatever it is in dollars. I see euro prices because I am in Europe. And you might think for $7, $8 you get a stack of stickers, but oh no, you get one. So, and people often flex to me on Twitter. They're like, hey Simon, look at these stickers. And I'm like, you rich f***. Make sure you stick them on the back of your Lambo and send me a picture. I don't even have the stickers. I think I bought one allegedly sticker, and then I was like, too rich for my blood. Not so long ago. Oh, what happens here? Danny writes me a script. I will read the script. I will be unfunny. Sam will add some memes. Let's do it. Not so long ago, I can remember casually flicking through a lavishly illustrated brochure for custom designed coffins. What are you doing, Danny? That reminds me, I should really have a word with my local doctor's surgery about providing a more appropriate choice of reading matter in the waiting room. Not appropriate! But it is very funny, but I have to admit I was getting intrigued by the eclectic mix of novelty-shaped coffins and caskets that were on offer. You could get coffins in the shape of a Viking longship, a TARDIS, a Twix chocolate bar, a bingo machine, and a giant packet of Bakewell tarts. I can't believe this is actually true. When I die, I want to be frozen. I want to be frozen by Alcor. I gotta set that up. It's really expensive, but I mean, what have you got to lose? Like, you're dead. May as well give it a shot. You can't take your money with you, but you can use it to freeze yourself in the hope that in the future they'll be able to revive your body. I sadly couldn't find my own dream Sinclair C5 Coffin listed in the brochure, but it did mention that the manufacturers would be dead happy to create any custom design as long as you throw a load of money at them. And the average price was about $5,000. F***ing hell. Wait, for a custom one, or is that just for regular coffins? Hey Siri, how much is a coffin? Wolfram Alpha coffin prices. It has asked me, well, okay, here's some interesting information for you. Coffin is the 3,985th most popular surname in the United States. 92.78% of people who have it are white. The most notable person with the surname Coffin is Jeff Coffin, a songwriter, etc., born 1965. He's 55 years old. Thanks, Siri. That was exactly what I was looking for. Says no one. Ever. I was then struck by quite a dark thought. The most expensive thing I could possibly do right now is drop dead. That's not true. If you're in America, which Danny's not because he's British, and if you're in the doctor's waiting room, there's a lot more expensive news that you can get in that room.
My name is Buck, and I'm here to fuck.
It turns out you have a chronic disease that your health insurance isn't going to cover. Are you ready to sell your home? Not that it would affect me much, but it would certainly run up a big bill for those who cop to sorting it all out. And a funeral service has got to be one of the biggest blatant rip-offs in the modern world. Even a non-novelty coffin or casket will set you back $1,000 at the very least, which seems a bit of a waste of money considering how much use you get out of it, and the fact that it will soon either get hidden away in the ground or more likely these days get burnt to a crisp. A typical markup on a coffin is about 200%, which seems a little steep. Note here, family, if I die, don't waste your money, or more accurately, my money, what was my money, on a coffin. Use it for something useful. And by use it for something useful, I mean have it yourselves and enjoy it. Have a party or something. Use that £1,000, go out for a really nice meal. It's on me. The actual cremation costs just shy of $1,000 in the UK, or you can pay twice as much for a burial. It costs about $1,000 to book the chapel for the funeral service for about half an hour and get some religious bloke who never even met the deceased to stand at the front, bang on about Jesus and make loads of embarrassing mistakes in the eulogy. Danny Salter, that's Danny's name, was a keen Heineken drinker who enjoyed driving around in the countryside in a tank and enjoying and taking pot shots at badgers. Anyway, now let's pause to hear a toe-tapping track from his all-time favourite artist, Phil Collins, I want to see those hips moving. There's something in the air tonight. Oh Lord. And I know those aren't the lyrics, but now it's a meme. It can cost hundreds of pounds for a few pretty flowers, another grand for a memorial, headstone or plaque, and of course there are plenty of enticing optional extras to pimp up your funeral. I would like, no, don't get a memorial headstone, I'm not into that. Get one of those benches. I love it when there's a bench, a nice bench, in a really nice place, overlooking some nice view, and there's often a little plaque on there saying, in the memory of. And I'm like, you legends, you got like a bench for people to enjoy in a place where there wasn't a bench, and it looks nicer than the city benches, and I'll read you a little plaque and be like, whoever that was, legends. I like it. Do that. Use my money. Get a bunch of benches. You can have your name written in a book of remembrance for 100 quid, or you can get a memorial bush planted for 500 pounds, or really go to town with a memorial bench for a few more grand. Don't get a expensive bench like that though, alright? I mean, get a good bench, a few hundred quid. Easy. You're in trouble if you die while you're out of town, as it can cost hundreds of pounds to drive the body from one location to another, even if it's not particularly far. Just put me in the back of an Uber. Your family would probably be better off just hiring a black cab and sorting it out for themselves. Oh no, he's just really drunk. He passed out. Don't worry, he's not going to throw up. We're pretty certain. It even costs £50 if you want the crematorium dudes to spend a couple of minutes on splitting up the ashes into 2 separate piles for you to scatter in different locations. And naturally, the people who walk away with some of the biggest markups of all are the funeral directors, who rake in a small fortune for themselves in their role as glorified party planners. Describing a funeral as a party is not what I would do. Funeral prices seem to be rising ever higher in recent years in the UK, with a typical funeral in London now costs an average of £7,500. Don't waste your money, please. Just don't. If someone spent £7,500 on my funeral, I would be very disappointed. Please don't do that. Throw me in the ocean. I'm joking. Use that money. Freeze my brain.
You don't have the brains you were born with.
It never used to be like this. Before the American Civil War, we just used to throw people in the ocean. Not really. Families used to take care of a lot of the arrangements at home. They would wash and clean the corpse of dear old Grandpa Joe. Don't do that. I don't want my family washing my weird dead body. Pay someone to do that. And then lay him out in the nicest room in the house. Don't do that. It's weird. So that guests could come along and pay their final respects. I realize I'm sort of this episode is more an excuse for me to tell everyone that after I'm dead, this is how I want it to be. Also, I don't really care that much because I am dead. I'm not entirely sure if they would prop Grandpa Joe up in a chair or maybe lob him over the pool table, but we're certain they were saving a few quid in the preparation before paying a modest fee for the funeral service down at the local church. During the Civil War, the remains of soldiers were often decomposed before they finally reached home, leading to a fresh boom in business for undertakers, who would often set up shop on the outskirts of a battlefield so they could offer embalming services the very same minute that another soldier bit the dust. That is morbid. Death had suddenly become a very profitable industry. How did we get to these frankly ridiculous pricing structures, which most funeral directors won't even attempt to justify or explain? Why is it so expensive? It just is. I'm so sorry for your loss, but my bank account isn't. Part of the reason is the lack of competition. You don't generally see more than one funeral director's office in the same town or village, so they can charge whatever they like and usually get away with it. Just go on the internet, cheapfunerals.com. Please tell me this is a thing. It is a... Oh, it doesn't work. I feel like I should buy cheapfunerals.com and have it as the new link to my merch store. Purge the merch, be gone! Go to cheapfunerals.com and buy some merch. Everyone will be very confused. When I start a clothing brand, when I go beyond just the t-shirts and the stuff that you can get with Teespring and start my own clothing company, because every YouTuber does, I'm going to call it Cheap Funerals. That's actually good, I like it. It would sell blazers. They'd be like, where'd you get that blazer? Cheap Funerals. Another reason is the industry is one of the few to remain completely untouched by cheaper competition from the internet. Ah, damn it! A funeral is really not something you can just order online in a bargain package on Black Friday. Bereaved families do feel under an obligation to give their loved ones a fitting send-off regardless of expense, but it's unlikely that the deceased would have wanted their family to endure financial hardship for the sake of a nice do. And they wouldn't want to have a big chunk of their life savings end up in the pockets of a funeral director. Goddamn right. The good news is that there does appear to be a very gradual shift towards DIY funerals in the UK at the moment, in which you pay no more than £1,000 to receive the cremated ashes in an urn and then hold a more friendly and personal tribute at your own home. That sounds more like it to me, and maybe more funeral directors will finally consider lowering their prices if this trend continues to grow in the future. In the meantime, we should perhaps take some comfort in the knowledge that some companies are taking such time and effort to scam damn us from beyond the grave. Yeah, we should all be thankful for that, Danny. It's wonderful. Allegedly. And before we reach our final destination, there are plenty of other exciting ways to throw away your money on completely overpriced tat. And with that, we gotta be what, 20 minutes in, 15 minutes in? The introduction is done.
That's a 10.
You're welcome. Everyone in the comments who says, oh my god, so much blathering, why doesn't he get to the point? Well, here we are, 15 minutes in.
10.
Diamonds are not forever. Oh, I hate diamonds. This is such a rip-off. Nothing conveys your undying love and commitment to a partner. They're better than a big, expensive ring with a sparkly diamond inside it. Normally it's on the outside, Danny. Alternatively, you could just cut out the middleman and present your partner with an urn containing several months' worth of your salary that you've just set on fire as a symbol of your burning romantic devotion. Yeah, the idea of spend 2 months' salary on a wedding ring? It's like, that is ridiculous. I am married. My wife absolutely didn't get that. And honestly, I wouldn't marry someone who was disappointed by this. The fact is that unlike, say, gold or silver, diamonds are just a glittering con. They're not particularly rare, and they're certainly not forever. As we've learned from the famous Spandau Ballet song, gold is indestructible. In contrast, diamonds are quite easily damaged and destroyed. So why are we so happy to fork out a fortune for a relatively common mineral that quickly loses its sparkle? It's because we're all blistering idiots. Blithering idiots. Oh, Simon, you're so dumb. Or at the least, we've been lied to for decades by a very shrewd marketing campaign from a company that tightly dictated the supply. Up until the mid-19th century, most diamond trading took place in India and Brazil. This was back in the days when diamonds could still be considered a rarity, and you were only ever likely to see one on the hands of a monarch or a professional YouTuber. Hell yeah! But then, in around 1870, massive diamond mines were uncovered in South Africa, and suddenly cheaper diamonds were flooding the market. This may have been good news for the common man or woman who fancied getting their hands on one for the first time, but it was bad news for the many British financiers behind the mining operations who realized that the value of their great find was quickly becoming more and more diluted every day. And people might be like, oh yeah, now we can afford them, but then they quickly become undesirable. Like aluminium, or aluminum as my American friends would say, used to be like the most expensive metal in the world because they hadn't worked out electrolysis. So, aluminium is abundant, but you need to do this magical chemical process to make aluminium from it.
I know what you're thinking.
It's not magical, it's called science. Once it became super abundant and everyone figured this out, it lost its value. So all of these people who had these crazy, having an aluminium plate was like, whoa, that is bigger and better than gold. And then it became wildly common and everyone's like, yeah, I'm just gonna wrap chicken in it. So people would just stop caring about diamonds unless this company, spoiler alert, the name is De Beers, bit of a allegedly piece of shit. When it comes to this, De Beers is sketch, allegedly. So, a cunning Brit by the name of Cecil Rhodes went about snapping up all the diamond mines and fields in South Africa from his competitors. By 1888, his company De Beers pretty much had a complete monopoly on the production and distribution of all diamonds coming out of South Africa, which in turn gave them almost total control of the diamond market. It reached a point where the company was less interested in mining new diamonds and focused instead on just controlling the existing supply. De Beers would snap up any surplus diamonds on the market and then stockpile them, strategically calculating exactly how many diamonds it would release again into the market each year and at what massively inflated price. So diamonds were no longer a rarity. It's just that De Beers was hoarding most of them to maintain an illusion of scarcity and then shifting a relatively small percentage of them for far more than they were actually worth. Exactly. I've done a video on this somewhere else because I know this story so well. I might have even done it twice. So I'm sorry if you're hearing me repeat myself, but at least you get the business blaze flavor. It wasn't until the 1930s that the love affair between Americans and diamonds really burst into passionate flames. De Beers, now under the guidance of the equally cunning German immigrant Ernst Oppenheimer, launched a series of marketing campaigns which suggested for the very first time that a diamond engagement ring was the ultimate romantic gesture. It's not. Please stop this. If your wife to be, or whoever, dear American friends, is saying oh, you got to buy me this nice diamond ring to get engaged, one, tell them no, and two, send them to this video. So, honestly, it's probably not going to do wonders for your relationship, but well, send them here if you think that's best. And then if you've arrived at this point in the video, dear potential future wife, well, I'm sorry for the bad news.
John, I want a divorce.
Divorce.
The weird thing about this campaign is that somehow it managed to convince consumers that this had always been a long-standing tradition going back centuries, when in fact De Beers had just plucked the concept out of thin air. The famous "Diamond is Forever" slogan was cooked up in 1948 and helped to persuade young lovers that they should keep hold of their fancy engagement rings for the rest of their lives. This was another clever marketing move, as De Beers didn't want anyone reselling their diamond engagement rings and potentially disrupting the company's tight control over the market. Yeah, this passing it down thing is ridiculous. I have a diamond ring which my grandmother gave to me a few years ago, and it is insanely expensive. And I'm like, well, the insurance appraisal on it is insanely expensive. And I'm like, well, that's not the real value because no one's going to pay the insured value. So I don't even know why I have this insured value thing. But it's like, it's just insane. And I'm like, this is just artificial. It's not really worth anything. But then you've also got this form which is saying if someone nicks this, you get this much money. And I'm like, kind of hope someone would nick it. And so it was that over the next few decades, prompted by a flurry of high-profile celebrity endorsements, devoted couples were compelled to spend an average of 2 months' wages on this fictional tradition, as anything else would make them look like a skinflint. In the US alone, wholesale diamonds shot up $23 million in 1939 to $2.1 billion by 1979. $1979! That's a lot more today. It's a lot anyway. It's a lot more. De Beers eventually faced an antitrust class action lawsuit in 2005 and were charged with creating a global cartel through aggressive management of supply and prices and collusive agreements with suppliers and distributors. The company eventually agreed to a $295 million settlement, which they probably didn't mind at all because which included an injunction that prohibits De Beers from monopolizing the market. They probably minded a lot more about that because that monopoly is their business. They may have lost the official monopoly, but De Beers are still responsible for nearly 30% of the world's diamond production, but critics argue they still wield control over the excessive inflation of prices. Diamonds certainly don't seem to have dramatically fallen in price in recent years. My advice is to buy synthetic diamonds instead. Laboratories can now create artificial diamonds which cost a fraction of the price and which even leading experts can't distinguish from the real thing. And then you can use all the money you've saved on something genuinely useful and productive for the future of your budding relationship, like buying a house. Like, if you don't own a house and you are considering spending 2 months of your salary on a ring, get your shit together. A rich oh, I gotta do a Squarespace ad read, or it's gotta be in the middle. You see, when I do an ad read, it's always got to be like around the 50% mark or earlier. So I don't know why I'm telling you this, but there's a little inside look. Let me just bring up my notes because there are things I have to say despite the fact that I mostly just ramble on this channel. Oh, what I do want to say, Squarespace, I thought about making a website for Business Place. I was like, let's see about businessplace.com. Also, the domain was really expensive because I think I mentioned buying businessplace.com in a previous video, and then a bunch of people inquired, about buying businessplace.com because that's what you guys do. And then the seller jacked up the price like 20 grand, and I'm like, no, just buy the .columbia.co for cocaine. And I didn't do that. But I was thinking, I'll make a website for Business Plays, and then I was like, well, what will I put on the website? Like, Danny's scripts, they just seem a bit crazy when they don't have me explaining what's going on because there's so many in-jokes. So I didn't. But I did use Squarespace to build a website for another channel that I do called Mega Projects, which you can find at megaprojects.net because, again, I didn't want to pay for the .com. And I don't know, the .co just seemed a bit silly for Mega Projects, so I got the .net, megaprojects.net, and it's unbelievably easy. Like, I have no design skills, I have no technology skills, I have minimal computer skills. That's a lie. I'm okay at computers, but I don't know websites. It's very confusing. And I just went onto Squarespace, I picked up a template, I pasted in the articles, I threw in some pictures, I put on a title, I chose a background which was grey because I don't know, I like the minimalist look, and I was like, boom, done, easy. And it was like that. I mean, I know I'm not hitting the talking points, but that was my experience making a Squarespace website. It's just easy. Just go do it. Oh yeah, okay, I've got things about the motivational stuff. Okay, maybe you've got some idea, maybe you want to start a website, a YouTube channel, a podcast, whatever. These things people do. Don't be put off thinking, oh God, but websites is so confusing. What is all this HTML code? Why are people hacking the mainframe, or whatever problems you have? You won't have those with Squarespace. Oh, also, if you want to do a store, like I sell all this merch through Teespring, which is a company that kind of does all the merch stuff for you. But if I was like selling, I don't know, widgets or whatever, or I don't know, whatever, you can do a shop on Squarespace. It's just, I've not done it, so I can't say that it's ridiculously easy, but they tell me it's ridiculously easy. The website that I made was ridiculously easy, so I believe that they are not bull***ing us. I believe that it is easy. Also 24/7 customer support in case you get stuck. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial. When you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/blaze and save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. That's it, guys. I mean, I think I hit the points that I had to talk about. I told you about my experience. If you truly felt anything for your partner, you'd forget about the diamonds and take them for a bite to eat at Serendipity 3 instead. Although it's debatable if it would work out any cheaper. Founded in 1954, the restaurant in New York City was an early example of the hipster cafe, right from the very beginning, doubling up as a kind of boutique that sold weird one-of-a-kind fashion items and oddities. Sounds Yeah, I really want to buy when I'm having lunch. No, I just want to eat my lunch. It's not complicated. Those restaurants you go to where it's like the art on the walls is for sale, I'm like, couldn't you just get art? Like, why does it have to be for sale? It's weird. And someone just like, yeah, I'll have that. Just you're having lunch and you're like, yeah, I'll take that painting. Do you just wrap it up with the burger? Notable early customers included Marilyn Monroe, Grace Kelly, Andy Warhol, the First Lady, Jacqueline Kennedy, and the latter of whom was turned down when she asked for the secret recipe to the restaurant's signature dessert, the frozen, there's loads of R's in there for some reason, hot chocolate. Although the co-owner of the restaurant did agree to serve the dish in person at Jacqueline Kennedy's party. Yeah, because she's fucking Jacqueline Kennedy. Andy Warhol was relatively unknown at the time and completely skint, but he was allowed to pay for his frozen hot chocolate with his artwork. He ended up getting the chance to exhibit some of his new designs in the cafe and catching the attention of the editors from Vogue for the first time. Oh, if I run a cafe and some random guy came in claiming to be an artist, I'd be like, bro, you're crazy. You gotta pay for that, I'm afraid. More recent high-profile names to pop in the restaurant include Jay-Z, Beyonce, Ryan Reynolds, President Bill Clinton, Kim Kardashian, and Justin Bieber. I feel like Bill Clinton's a bit left out there. Jay-Z, Beyonce, Ryan Reynolds, Bill Clinton, Kim Kardashian, Justin. It just doesn't seem like his crowd. So they're clearly not too fussy about who they let through their doors. And you don't have to be fabulously wealthy to order the majority of stuff on the menu. A frozen hot chocolate served in a soda fountain glass with 2 straws and a massive dollop of whipped cream sprinkled with chocolate shavings could only set you back about $12. But you might need a bigger bank balance to tuck into some of the more extravagant options. To celebrate the restaurant's 50th anniversary in 2004, Serendipity 3 launched the Golden Opulent Sundae. It might seem a bit pricey at $1,000. Shit! In fact, it held the Guinness World Record for the most expensive dessert on Earth, but apparently it takes 8 hours to put together and the restaurant requires 48 hours notice to complete your order.
Smells like shit.
It is shit, Austin.
Oh good, then it's not just me.
Your $1,000 gets you 3 whole scoops of Tahitian vanilla ice cream covered in 23-carat edible gold leaf, along with big blobs of almonds, caviar, marzipan cherries, and all kinds of crazy exotic shit. Perhaps most significantly, the dish is served in a $350 Baccarat Hardcore crystal goblet, which you get to take home with you afterwards. You're also provided with an 18-carat gold spoon, but they ask for that back. A few years later, in 2007, Serendipity 3 broke their own world record when they launched the frozen hot chocolate for $25,000. Yeah, it's just going to be like, yeah, it's a dessert. It's $25,000. Well, the dessert costs $24,990. It's just some cart door ice cream, but there's a big-ass diamond in the bottom, which you get to take home. We want the spoon back. This is another ice cream sundae which features a fine blend of 28 of the world's most expensive cocos and is decorated with white and chocolate-covered diamonds, which Wait, why the are you covering diamonds in chocolate? Which, as we just discovered, are worth jack shit. So that's another con within a con right there. Yeah, it is. Again, you get to keep the fancy goblet in which it was served, which included more diamonds at the base. But this one may have been overstepping the line just a little. It was very quickly withdrawn from the menu and has never been seen since. You suspect even Kim Kardashian went a bit dizzy at the thought of blowing $25,000 on ice cream. Dan, you're underestimating just how rich Kim Kardashian is. And I don't know why they removed it from the menu, because that is quite the... I mean, it's dumb. Don't ever buy this. Don't waste your money. Please. But I get it. It's like good publicity. Kim Kardashian and her ilk will buy it. If you don't fancy splashing out that much, you can still order other world record holding options from the menu, including the world's most expensive hamburger, priced at $259, held together with a solid gold diamond encrusted toothpick, or the world's most expensive milkshake, priced at $100, served in a glass decorated with 3,000 Swarovski crystals, which you don't get to keep. Or if you're feeling a bit short this week, you can just settle for the $69 hot dog, a foot-long tube of meat accompanied with black truffles and foie gras. I mean, that does sound pretty good, because truffles are great, And as cruel as it is, so is foie gras. To me, it does make you wonder how easy it is to get into the Guinness Book of World Records, though. It is easy. I mean, just come up with something. Pay, because it's a for-profit enterprise, right? So you've got to pay like Guinness to come and certify your record and all this shit, and it's expensive and it's how they make their money. But you can get it for anything. Be like most dickheadish YouTuber. Pretty sure I could get that Guinness World Record. If I opened a basement cafe and started serving $350,000 bowls of French onion soup with sourdough croutons shaped in the face of Simon Whistler, would I get a place in the book? Watch this space. I'm quite excited about that. Compact discs. Paul McCartney can still recall the day back in the 1980s when his former legendary producer and unofficial fifth Beatle, George Martin, isn't that the dude who wrote the Lord of the Rings books? Turned up at his house to show him, oh, not Lord of the Rings, the other one, with the dragons and shit. Game of Thrones. George Martin had gotten hold of a shiny new compact disc. Could I fit any more cultural ignorance into 30 seconds? I don't think so. George Martin got hold of a shiny new compact disc when he was destined to shake up the future of the commercial music industry, and he was excited about it. Apparently, George exclaimed, "This will change the world. It's indestructible. You can't smash it. Look." I bet he proceeds to smash it. He then proceeded to whack it over the nearest table, and the CD split in half. There were certainly a few myths about... Oh yeah, I remember an episode of Tomorrow's World, which was a show where they had like technology of the future on in the UK, and there was a guy like reversing a car over a CD, just loose. And he's like, and then it'll play. And I'm like, bro, that ain't gonna work. Despite what some people claimed at the time, you couldn't really expect the new indestructible CD to play perfectly after you'd smeared it in peanut butter, thrown it in a deep fat fryer for 5 minutes, and then stuck it in the washing machine. Perhaps the biggest myth of all was the perceived value of the new CD, and it's certainly a thorny topic. Over here in the UK, new vinyl albums were selling for around £7 or so during the late 80s and early 1990s. Cassettes were usually considerably cheaper, and quite understandably so. Often seen as a more disposable format, cassettes were also clearly smaller and much cheaper to produce than the majestic vinyl record housed in its mighty cardboard sleeve. When the superior digital audio experience of the CD hit the shelves of the record stores, it was seen as a bold new progression for the music industry, and customers seemed keen to shell out more money for something that was perceived to be a radical improvement on cranky old format. But here's the thing, compact discs are actually dramatically cheaper to produce than vinyl records or cassettes, and yet the price tag was positioned at between £10 to £15, so it would work out as twice as expensive to buy. Good lord, that was £10 to £15 back in the day? And now it's like, I have all of the music in the world for like, what, $8 a month on Spotify? It's probably more than that, isn't it? But I split it with my family, so it's not expensive. It's reported that record companies have managed to get the manufacturing of the CDs down to less than £1 by the mid-1990s, and the new format was much easier to ship and much easier for record stores to display in the racks. But the retail prices only ever kept creeping up, while the vinyl and cassette formats stayed roughly the same. Now, it's a controversial topic because you're clearly paying for far more than just the minor manufacturing costs of a CD. You're paying for all of the creative effort and time and resources that were put into the production of the album. Yeah, but it's not anymore. Once you've made it, if you make one or you make 1 million, those costs don't change. It's called fixed costs. I mean, you're on Business Place. Look, you just learned something about business. You're paying for the months and months of meditational reflection conducted by Yoko Ono before she could finally summon up the mental willpower to record a classic, I Feel Like Smashing My Face in a Clear Glass Window. Yoko Ono, if you're new to Business Place, welcome. Number one, thank you for making it this far in this train wreck of a video. Yoko Ono is a recurring meme on this channel who I will absolutely on, and I can't continue this without giving you a little rendition of my version of Yoko Ono. And now let's move on. It took Guns N' Roses 14 years to finally complete the Chinese Democracy album. It's understandable that some of this time time invested might be reflected in the retail price of the album, even though I suspect most of that long period is spent hurling beer cans at each other and arguing about whose turn it was to put the kettle on. But surely, this should have been reflected across the pricing of all the different formats. It doesn't seem to make sense that the cheapest format to produce had a retail tag that was twice as expensive as the others. And it's largely because the record companies could get away with charging more for something that was perceived to be new and superior. And I suppose there's no arguing the supply and demand, even if it was described in some quarters as wildly excessive profiteering, which allegedly funded the coke habits of record industry executives for well over a decade. F***ing legends. Of course, some of that money went in developing new bands and talents. The 1990s 1990s, Britpop scene in the UK spearheaded a major resurgence of the music industry, which may not have been entirely possible if the record companies weren't rolling around in money. But it's also interesting to note that vinyl and cassettes took a long time to die, even though CDs should, in theory, have rendered them totally obsolete by about 1985. CD sales only overtook vinyl sales for the first time in 1988 and didn't overtake cassette sales until as late as 1991, largely because more cash-conscious consumers were stubbornly sticking with the cheaper formats. Yeah, I don't remember tapes. CDs were the first things that I saw in stores. I was born in 1987, so that makes perfect sense. The CD revolution would have been far more effective if the record labels had just brought the prices down to at least match those of vinyl and cassette, which wouldn't have been entirely unreasonable. Thankfully, a quarter of a century on, the pricing seems to be far more sensible. Faced with the tough competition of streaming services, CDs cost about the same today as they did 25 years ago. But since vinyl made but also inflation. Like, I don't know how much. When was the last time you bought a CD? It's 2020. Let's say they cost 10 to 15 pounds. With inflation, that's way cheaper than it was in the past. CDs can't cost more than 10 to 15 pounds, surely. Surely. Hey Siri, how much does a new CD album cost? No, just useless web results. But since vinyl made an unexpected comeback and became hip with dedicated lovers of inferior sound quality, the average price of a new vinyl album has shot up to about 4 times the cost it was in the 1990s, and well over twice as much as a CD. For that kind of silly money, I'd expect a gatefold sleeve encrusted with at least 250 diamonds and a very generous blob of Tahitian vanilla ice cream. This has been Business Blaze. I have been your boy with the blaze, also known as Simon. This video has been brought to you by the legends over at Squarespace, and you can support this show. If you've been thinking, I should make a website, I should make Simon happy, I should support Business Blaze because of all the hours of content that Simon makes for me, Squarespace is the right way to do it. There is a link below. Thank you for watching.